What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Tony. And guess what we're doing today? Something I haven't done in a while. A tier list. What are we ranking exactly? We're going to do Final Destination and Saw. Being that those are like two of the biggest horror franchises that I kind of grew up with in the 2000s. Was going to put Paranormal Activity on here, but dude, I'm going to be honest, I'm not like the biggest fan of those movies. I've only seen a handful of them, dude. I'm not the biggest fan, so I chose not to add them. But we are doing Saw and Final Destination. Yes, there's only a couple Final Destination movies. There's way more Saw, so we'll see how this goes. I will say this. Once we jump into like each tier, it's going to look different than most. So some people do like S tier, A tier, so on and so forth. I typically just kind of try to be fair because I'm going to be honest, most of these movies, I do like to some degree. I may not be like the biggest fan of a few here and there, but I like these movies all to some degree, even the shitty ones. So that's why the tiers are going to look different. And I try to be funny when I do these. I try to make them more realistic. Like my rating system is basically, it goes like, you got, where can I get the last 2 hours of my life back? This movie sucks shit. Then you got worth checking out on streaming, must see like right now, and then gold standard. But just to give you an idea, that's kind of what that's like. So let's just jump right into it and let me show you exactly what I've pulled up. All right, here we are. So as you can see, we have Masterpiece, Terrific. Well, let me explain each one first. Masterpiece is essentially, again, these are horror films. They're not exactly the best movies ever made, so I wouldn't quite call this a 5-star thing, but it's the closest to 5 stars you can get. Terrific is fucking awesome. Like 4 stars, essentially. Again, it's just as close as you can get to that. Appreciate It is pretty much, it's not the best, but I like it. Kill Some Time, that's what it is. It's literally background noise. You don't really care too much for this movie. Why, dude, is I got some problems with it. Like I said, I like all these movies to a certain degree, but why, dude, typically means that I have some sort of issue with it, and we'll dive right into that. These I kind of mixed up and just threw in here, so let's really just kind of get into what we got here. So obviously we have every single Saw film, every single Final Destination. All right, starting with Final Destination 5. So where do we put Final Destination 5? If you want my honest opinion, dude, this is going into Terrific, and here's why. Again, I like all these movies, but each one has something about them that makes them amazing, and something about them that makes them kind of a problem. In this one, it looks cheesy, I will say that, but it's not it's not as cheesy compared to the Final Destination, and we will visit that one in a minute. But it looks a little cheesy the way it's shot. However, I think that was kind of the intent because it is supposed to look more like a 90s film because it took place before the first one. Sorry to get into spoiler territory, but we're gonna have to. But that being said, I think that was the intent. So it looks a little funny, but after kind of being shat on with the Final Destination, I really didn't want to see this movie. And I chose not to. I actually did not see this until later in life. And when I watched it, I was like, damn, dude, this is really good. This isn't just another Final Destination. I like the story in here. The story, it makes sense, and it does things that are different. It does things that they haven't done before. So I think that is one of the reasons I've always found it to be terrific. I really do think it's probably the second, maybe the third best sequel in the entire franchise. Because, again, there's only a handful of them, but I really think that this one might be in third place for being one of the best. But that's where I would put Final Destination 5. Like the story, love the death, kill scenes, I should say. I actually like some of the surprise actors that we got in there. There's a bunch of surprises. It's a little different. Now, next one, Final Destination Bloodlines. Well, you know what? We have so many of these. Let's just kind of do this at random. We have so many Saws. Let's just start with Jigsaw. So, Jigsaw, if you don't know, is the 8th one. I am going to put this one at, honestly, I'm going to put it at Appreciate It. So when I first saw this film, I was pretty happy with it. I was excited. I understand why a lot of people didn't like it. I get it. All right. I've heard it all. Just like Spiral, just like Saw 10 or X, whatever you call it. There's nothing new here. This doesn't take the story in any different direction. It's just kind of like a, hey, remember when? Flashback. Like this whole movie really is a flashback, dude. But it is probably, it's about as close to the original, or at least the first 3 Saws that we've had in a while. It is all new characters, of course, and like you have Jigsaw in there, of course. It's nothing new. It doesn't do anything. Like they tried to revitalize this franchise because it was falling apart, and by the time the 7th one came out, not a lot of people gave a fuck. But, for their efforts, it's awesome. I do like the story. I like the kills. The traps are really intriguing in this one. They're very different. I like all the multiple settings. but it falls short because I do think that it doesn't do anything. It doesn't really make you ask any new questions. It just doesn't take the franchise anywhere. It really is just like, hey, remember when? But there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that that's why I appreciate it because, dude, there's other movies in this franchise that I personally believe suck. Like I still enjoy them to some degree, but they are nowhere near as good as this one, even though this one is a problem child. The next one, we're going to do another Saw. Let's just go with Saw 3D or Saw 7. Again, I'm putting this one at appreciate it. I like this one. I don't think it's amazing. I will say, though, it is much better than 5, 6, and 4. Like those 3, I think are the most boring in the franchise. 6 is growing on me, but 7 was the one that really they were like, hey, we're putting this to bed. And ironically, it did not get good reviews, dude. This was probably one of the most hated ones at the time. I would like to say that it's grown a cult following. I don't think so, but it's a cult following for me right here. I actually do enjoy Saw 3D. I think the opening is cool. I love the death scenes and I love the traps. Like it's intriguing. It does miss the mark though. When they bring back, I can't remember his name, Cary Elwes or Ellis or however you say his name from the first one that plays Dr. Gordon. He's back. And right from the beginning, dude, you know what this fucking guy is about. You know that there's no secrets here. He's got something to do with all of this. They just didn't do a good job at that, dude. It's like it misses the landing. And I'm not going to lie, I really do believe you see the ending coming. Maybe it's just me and I'm just a, picky person, but you see the ending coming, dude. This is really like, I like it, but they missed the mark on this. It did not land, especially for a closure. And I think that's why we ended up getting more of them, even though it took wasn't it like almost a decade since we got another one? I'm pretty sure it was something along those lines. It had been a minute, but yeah, I appreciate it. I just don't think it's a masterpiece or terrific in any sort of way. It's, maybe when I first saw it, I probably would have told you that was great. Because remember, these movies came out when I was in grade school, middle school. And so like I was riding high on this. For a lot of folks that grew up in the 80s, you had Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. For people my age in their, late 20s, early 30s, we had Final Destination, Saw, Paranormal Activity, and all that. So these are like our monster franchises. Now, let's grab a Final Destination. Let's just go ahead and get the OG right here. Yes, we're going to go ahead and put that in Masterpiece. I firmly believe that the first Final Destination is fucking terrifying. This movie's like scary, dude. It gave me a fear of flying. I'm sure everyone else has been through this. It was one of the earlier horror films that I had seen growing up. The first horror film I've ever seen is Halloween 4, but this was one of the couple that my uncle, he put on TV and I watched it with him. And, my sister was big into these movies, or the horror films, I should say. And so this was kind of like a first viewing for me. And it scared the absolute shit out of me, dude. And I don't think the effect is really there for the rest of these movies. Like maybe some things you watch, I'm like, I know the second one has the same effect, but I'd argue this is the one that it truly hammers home fear. And I do like the way death works in this. The kills are really they're awesome, but they don't go above and beyond. That's something that these movies suffer from, is that as each one has come out, they're trying to find more and more ways to make the kills more interesting. The death scenes, they want them to be more, not just gory and bloody, but more kind of hard hitting. And I really think that the more we go up for that, the more we start to go down in quality. It just doesn't look as good. This one is the least bloodiest. It's the least goriest. I think that's why it works so well. It does prove that sometimes you don't need a lot of blood and gore. You can just focus on those quick kill scenes that are supposed to hit you so sudden that you're like, you don't realize what just happened. That's why that works. And I think that's why it's a masterpiece. And gotta be honest, I think besides only one other one, there really isn't any other masterpiece in this franchise. All right, so moving on to Saw 4. Dude, this is where I started to notice sequel fatigue, dude. I'm honestly putting this one at kill some time. I saw this as a kid, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. Saw 3 was my favorite Saw film of all time. And it still is. I'm going to be honest about that. It's still my favorite Saw movie of all time. I don't know what it is, man. I think the story's great. But this is like when the franchise was just at its peak, dude. I would argue that Saw 2 is what really kicked it off. Saw 3 was the fucking peak, dude. It was the greatest thing ever. The biggest mistake they made was killing Jigsaw. If they would have waited a couple more films, it would have made more sense. But every movie after that is a flashback, and it is hard to find that originality. It is hard to find the spirit. The first 3 films are really the only, well, that and the 10th one, they're really the only ones that have that fucking spirit, dude. And I was one of those kids that I was under the impression that, okay, Jigsaw's dead. We have our final trap. The franchise is over. Of course it's not over, dude. They were like, no, this is just the beginning. And they were honest about that. I remember seeing Darren Lynn Bousman, the director, talk about how there was more to come. Same with James Wan and Lee Winnell. And it's like, well, how the fuck? That was one of those things where I was just like, this is really weird. So I couldn't wait for the fourth one. It follows the officer from the first three films, or sorry, from the last two, I should say. He plays a small role in 2 and 3, but here he's got a really big one. And dude, it's lazy. You don't care about this officer very much. You kind of don't care about his story. They bring back Donnie Wahlberg just to slap him in the face and make us feel stupid for wanting to know what happened to him. Like, this movie's just not that amazing, dude. I've learned to appreciate it over time, but I don't appreciate it as much as these other movies I've mentioned. This one is really just, I get why people like it, dude. I am not a fan of it. I have too many issues with it. I think it's not the worst one, but it's boring, dude. When you're going from 3 and then the fucking peak is just like, oh shit, it's going down. That should have been my red flag. I should have said, you know what? Now we're taking a break. But I chose to go all the way to 6 and then 7 and learn my lesson the hard way, dude. All right. Now, the mega. Saw 3, dude. My personal favorite. It is my absolute favorite. And I really, really, really want to put it where it belongs, in my opinion, but that's called being biased. We're going to be honest. Some of you probably think this movie sucks. I do not. And I'm putting it at terrific. This movie is fucking awesome. It is my favorite Saw movie of all time, dude. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I had a mad crush on Shawnee Smith as a kid. This was kind of her peak as an actress, in my opinion. She's been in Becker and a bunch of other stuff, but I would argue Saw is what really made her, like, not popular, but huge amongst the horror fan base. Like, any horror fan I've ever met knows who she is now at this point. And when I was a kid, I watched Becker with my dad. So that was my introduction to her, not Saw. But once Saw came around and they gave her like that emo gothic look, dude, it was, maybe it's just me. No, I'm just kidding. There was a whole fan base of you fucking nerds. I know I'm not alone in this. Hot, hot, hot. And the story is hot as hell, dude. I love the story. It is all about a family that's pretty much been ripped apart by the death of their child. And the dad, so filled and consumed with vengeance, is kind of the reason he fucks them both, dude. You gotta watch this movie. It is awesome. Everyone will tell you Saw 2 is the best, but I personally think the third one is. Just me. It's my personal favorite, dude. All right. Final Destination 2. Now, dude, I'm gonna be honest. You may not agree with me. In my honest opinion, this goes under masterpiece. I would love to say it's better than the first one. Not quite, but it's almost there. These two are probably the best. Everyone will tell you that 4 is awesome, even though it's terrible. They'll tell you that 3 is great, even though it has issues. They'll tell you the new one's great, even though it also has issues, but I still enjoy it. This is all based on personal preference. That's the way I see it. But I will say that I do think that 2 is probably the most popular. I love it, dude. I don't think it's the best one. It's close. It's close. The first two are definitely the best, but it is so popular, dude. I think that when we talk Final Destination, we immediately think about the log truck, the pile up. Me personally, that's what happens. Anytime someone mentions Final Destination, I immediately think of the second one. Because the first one was so popular that, of course, we were going to get a second one. And when the second one came out, dude, we had a franchise. We just knew it, dude. It was so big. It was, again, this is at its peak. Final Destination 2 was awesome, dude. I don't like what they did with a certain character that doesn't show up in this one, and then they bring one back that doesn't really do much. Those are my only complaints. Other than that, though, dude, I think that the story in Final Destination 2 is awesome. And it's probably the last one to really have like a decent ending, because they all end pretty dumb to where you know what's coming next. This one, I would argue, though, it was interesting the way it ends. You're like, holy shit, I just learned something that I forgot about half hour ago. All right, next movie. We are going for some candy here. We're just going to go ahead and grab Saw 6. Now, again, oh, fuck me. No, we're not putting it at Kill Some Time. I actually do appreciate this movie. It's taken me some time, but I appreciate it. And I will say this. I hated this movie for a long time. I thought this movie was just as bad as 5. I've reappraised it. I've had people tell me, Tony, you really got to just try to rewatch it and understand the uniqueness of it, especially the themes and the stories it's going for. Insurance fraud, kind of how we pay into health insurance and all they do is fucking kill us. It shows you a lot of that. No, it's not necessarily like a woke film, but it has woke themes, and that's one of them. But I think that's what works, dude. You want to follow this guy's journey because you watch him go from being a complete monster to having some sort of humanity in him. But by then, it's too late. And there are some familiar faces in here, specifically a certain kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, who meets his demise, I would assume. We don't see it, but I'm imagining that's what happens. It's been a minute since I've seen this movie too, man. But I do like the kills in it. There's a merry-go-round scene with some shotties. That is the coolest thing ever. If anything, dude, the kills alone will grab you and bring you in. You will be interested in the kills alone. Story has holes, but like I said, I think it's really cool to watch this piece of shit become somebody else through his journey of trauma. It's one of the few in this franchise where you actually see the character change over time, whether it's too late or not. At first, I hated it. Like I said, I thought it was awful, but I haven't even gotten to the worst one yet. We're about to get right to it. Saw 5. This movie is terrible. I'm putting it at Y, dude, because I was going to put it at Kill Some Time. I wouldn't even put this on to Kill Some Time, dude. The story in Saw 5 is just god awful. I don't care about the detective. I didn't give a fuck about him in the last one. I really don't care about what's being done now that Jigsaw is quote unquote gone. We have a detective who's gone rogue, who is basically just killing people. And like, that's cool, but it defeats the purpose of the Saw movies. And you take a couple movies to really pick up on where they're going with this. So much so that it's like, damn, it took 3-4 movies for you to make that point. This is the beginning of ridiculousness. Honestly, it started with 4, but 5 is where, dude, I'm going to be honest. I was so upset with 4 that I didn't actually see 5 in theaters. It was the first one I did not see in theaters. I waited till it was on rental. I watched it and I was like, holy shit, this really just is getting worse and worse. I can just tell. And it sucked because from that point, I kind of missed seeing these on time. Like I said, I didn't go see 6 in theaters. I honestly waited probably a year or two after it came out, watched it, and then I watched the final chapter, Saw 3D, whatever it's called. But Saw 5 is just awful, dude. I have not met any fans of the fan base that actually like this movie. I've met a few. They claim to have their reasonings for it, but all I hear is, oh, it's cool because of the deaths and like the traps. And it's like, yeah, that's every one of these though. That doesn't really excuse it from being a shitty movie. That's just me though, dude. Some of you, I'm sure you like Saw 5. I think it is god awful. I used to say it was 6. Then I, for the longest time thought 4, 5, and 6 were collectively awful, but the more I dissected these movies, the more my opinion has changed. Except for this one. It has not changed at all. Saw 5 is fucking terrible. All right. Now, let's get to... We'll do one more Saw movie. Fuck it. Let's do the legendary Saw. The very first one. Where are we putting... Dude, we're not playing games. This is going to Masterpiece. This is a great movie. It is absolutely a great movie. I would argue that Saw and Saw X are probably the 2 best movies in this franchise. Because this one, it's what started it all. It's very different. You watch this and you compare it to the rest, the tone's different. But that's the same with every other horror franchise. The first one is always different. It always feels different. This one feels more like a thriller blended with horror elements, and you got your gore in there. Independent film made off of a literal shoestring budget. Somehow, the powers that be saw this and went, I think we might have a hit. And then next thing you know, we had a hit. The powers that be said, you know what? Light it up. Let's do another one. People liked this. They did another one. And then, bam, we had a whole franchise. Who'd have thought, right? And I'm pretty sure that Saw 2 did come out immediately after this one, which was telling, dude. Because I really wonder who in the department made this movie and went, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a franchise on our hands. Because you got to admit, they did kind of test waters bringing the second one out. And it's an entirely different thing. Like, yes, it's the same. But dude, it is balls to the wall. Like, the amount of change between Saw 1 and 2 is drastically different, dude. You go from a simple indie thriller horror-ish film to a balls to the wall fucking war zone house full of traps. It's awesome, dude. I won't complain about 2 at all. Again, I think it's terrific, but the tone change is what really sets them apart. The first one truly is a masterpiece. I talk to a lot of people that don't like horror movies, and they will say the first Saw is good. They're like, yeah, it's a good scary movie, but the rest of them are just gore fests, which I like. All right, next one. We're going to go ahead and grab Final Destination Bloodlines. I actually couldn't wait for this movie, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think that this is terrific. It looked cheesy at first, I won't lie. I remember dying, dude, for the longest time wanting one of these, because the 4th one was so terrible, I didn't think we were going to get a 5th one, and then lo and behold, we did. And then nothing happened. For the longest time, nothing happened. We finally got one. I saw the trailer. I thought it was the cheesiest looking movie ever. But that's because, dude, I am judgmental. I do think that we have the ability to make movies look so good now that they almost look so good they're like cheesy. And I will admit this movie does look cheesy. Even after watching it, it's still, my opinion of it was correct when I watched the trailer and said that looks cheesy as shit. However, I'm not going to lie, dude, it was awesome. I liked it. Me and my wife watched it. We did not think that we were going to enjoy it. Dude, it was cool. And I liked the concept. It's a whole family this time. And before you freak out, because hey, I'm a parent too, no kids were harmed in the making of this. Just punk ass fucking kids that don't belong to you living in your house, 20-year-olds. Anyway, I like that they go after, it's a family this time. It's not a bunch of like random strangers. And I like how far back it goes. It literally talks about how death picks bloodlines. And how sometimes, yes, it can be skipped, but not necessarily. And of course, just like anything else, we think that we've defeated it, only to find out that death is coming, whether you like it or not. Keeping in fashion with the original films, and I absolutely love that. I hope we get another one of these sometime soon. I was highly impressed with it, dude. If you have not seen Final Destination Bloodlines, do yourself a favor, buy it, watch it. You'll probably want to own it, to be quite real with you. All right, now let's go to, well, why not? We've been talking about this a lot. Saw 2, where do we put this? Terrific. Like I said, Saw 2, the tone change is very different from 1 and 2, but the second one is balls to the wall, dude. It's fucking all out. Like, I would argue the opening, you're like, holy shit, we know what we're in store for. The opening to Saw 2 is crazy. It's probably, in my opinion, dude, it's the best opening of all of these films. I know that is probably fighting words, but dude, it sets the tone. You know exactly what you're getting into. The other films have their versions of openings and shit like that, but this one really just, it grabs you immediately to let you know you're here to see some gore. And I loved it. It went from this is a thriller investigation story to these motherfuckers better figure out how to get out of this house soon or they're all going to die. Oh, and by the way, they're going to die on the way getting out. It was great. All right, Final Destination. Well, The Final Destination. Dude, this movie's awful. We're just putting it where it rightfully belongs under fucking why, dude? Why? I remember going to the theater to see this with a girl that I was trying to impress, dude. I went with some buddies and she looked at me, my buddies looked at me, I looked at them, and we were like, this movie sucks. When you're a high school kid, that should not be something that pops into your head. Yeah, you'll have your reasons why you dislike movies, but you shouldn't be a teenager and even you can pick up on the bullshit. It is terrible, dude. This movie, oh my God, don't even get me started on the traps. None of them are awesome. None of them are good at all. They're all fucking borrowed from this franchise in some way. They implement themes that make no sense for this movie. We think that the ending is coming, then there's 3 different endings. Dude, nothing about this is good. Even the way it looks. Like, yes, I just got done saying that Bloodlines look cheesy. Dude, this one's really cheesy. You can see how fucking cheesy it is. There is so much CGI in this, dude, that it is just so hard to forgive them. I just couldn't believe the crap I was watching as a teenager, dude. I gave up at that point. I was like, nope, I'm not watching another one of these. And of course, I fucking did later in life with the 5th one. But yeah, no, don't watch Final Destination. Well, don't watch The Final Destination, dude. If I am being honest with you, like I said, I like all these movies to some degree. I really don't like this one at all. I own it for some fucking reason. Same with like Saw 5. I have no idea why I own these movies. I think they're terrible, dude. I don't even think that they're worth watching, to be quite honest with you. Oh, thank God. We get to go to a good one. Final Destination 3, dude. This one is awesome, and I'm going to go ahead and put it at terrific. I think that Final Destination 3 is the shit. It is not amazing. You know what I mean? It's not like the best thing ever, but oh my God, it was awesome, dude. Right after 2, I thought it was cool. My parents weren't the biggest fans of it. They liked the first 2 and they were like, we can see where this is going. I mean, it's a schlock fest at this point, right? It's nothing but gore, chop them up, cookie cutter, blood everywhere. That's what these movies are at this point. And I think that 2 kind of solidified that. 3 is just like what's carrying it on. 3 is the example of where can we take this to go better and higher? Or higher and better, I should say. And I will tell you this right now. If you've seen this movie, you probably had an issue with roller coasters. The effect of this film felt very similar to the first one. Not as scary as 1 and 2, but like you had that eeriness after like watching this movie. You're like, fuck, I don't know if I really want to go on fucking roller coasters anymore, dude. And the reason the second one isn't that scary is because of the fact that the pile-up thing, even though we all fear that, it's not as scary as a plane crash or a fucking roller coaster going off the rail. I would argue those are two of the scariest fucking things. And I think that's why that those two movies are the most powerful in terms of effect. I loved it too, man. It's got my girl Mary Elizabeth Winstead or Weinstead, however the fuck you say her name. I don't care. She's gorgeous, dude. She looks beautiful here, dude. Like she's aged like fine wine, but man, when you see her here, you're like, oh my God. And there's a lot of familiar faces too if you grew up watching Disney. I just love the story in this one. I love the kills too. You definitely pick up on the CGI. There's a lot of that in this one too, but not nearly as bad as the fourth one. Holy shit. Let's go to Spiral. A lot of you guys, for whatever reason, hated this movie. And I'm not going to lie to you. I thought it was terrific. I don't really get where the hate comes for this movie. I thought it was awesome. It's not a masterpiece, but it sure as shit ain't terrible. It does what Jigsaw did, which was it doesn't do anything new, but it's better acted, in my opinion, well shot. It's fucking Chris Rock. And then it's fucking Sam Jackson, dude. Like, what more do you want? That's awesome, dude. When I saw the trailer for that, immediately I fell in love. And dude, I gotta be honest, the effects in this one are cooler. Is it really a Saw movie though? I wouldn't say it is. I don't think it's necessarily like not a Saw movie because there's elements in here that they borrow from the Saw universe. You know, they got the Billy doll. Well, it's a different version. Like everything is different in this. And when it ended, I was kind of like, well, to be fair, what did this really have to do with Saw? Other than it kind of has the same moral teaching, if you will, about like how corruption needs to be handled, so on and so forth. These movies have always done that. But again, it doesn't really seem like a Saw movie. You could almost make the argument that, yes, they mentioned Jigsaw and things like that, but this really is a movie where it feels like they took the environment of a franchise and put it here, but you really could have called it something else. That's why it doesn't go to masterpiece for me. However, it is a good story. It's well acted. I liked it. I think the biggest downfall is that it doesn't really do a lot of justice to earn itself the name as a Saw movie, even though it's a Saw movie. And like I said, it doesn't do anything new. It just takes a story that's like, hey, remember when? And it's carbon copy, basically. You just got a copycat killer. And I can understand where that, frustrates people, but I think it's awesome. I like the story. I like the deaths too. And then the twist, I did not see it coming. I thought it was pretty cool. It's obviously a movie meant to lecture you about like police and corruption and this and that. And like, I would argue that's a good tool, but don't go into this thinking it's going to be like an innocent, happy-go-lucky film. None of these are. But this one is the most like very in your face when it comes to it's not woke, but it's very in your face when it comes to the preachiness. There we go. Still enjoyed it though, man. This was a well-acted movie. I was quite shocked at the fucking backlash that it got. Just didn't understand it. All right, but we're on our final one, Saw X. Now, I have wrestled with this, before I even put this anywhere, I have wrestled with this one for a while. I love the Saw movies equally, including the ones that I fucking hate, which is like Saw 5 and 6. No, I'm just kidding. I can't watch Saw 5, dude. I'll try it again for those of you that have been yelling at me. Give it a second shot. I will, but that aside, of all these movies, after rewatching them all, and even though the third one's my favorite, and even though I believe that the first one's clearly the best, there is only one other film in this franchise that does fall under masterpiece, and that is Saw X. I couldn't believe that, almost 20 years later now, we finally have a good Saw movie. Well, like one that we can all universally agree on. A lot of people had issues with this because they were like, again, this doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. This is a flashback. It's a, hey, remember when? But it's the glory days. And ooh, is it bloody, dude. What I love about this movie is that it takes the essence, all right, the fucking essence of the first film, and then it takes everything about all the other movies, the blood and the gore, and it puts it right there. This feels like the first movie all over again, but updated, more blood, more gore, better story. The story in this is pretty cool. This is more of a revenge flick. This really isn't about teaching anybody anything, to be fair with you. It's gross. It's got its little gross out moments, but I think that's why it works so well. This movie is amazing, dude. The way it's shot, I almost want to say it's better than the first one, but the first one, there will never be a movie better than that one, dude. The first Saw movie is fucking perfect, but this one is too, in my opinion. The story's great. Shawnee Smith comes back. The acting in it is actually quite interesting. Usually these movies are filled with terrible acting. This one, whatever reason, dude, they knocked it out of the park. I don't know if it's because they told them they have to really try this time or what, but it is noticeably different. And I love the cinematography in this one, dude. The way it's shot is beautiful. Again, I don't know why. It reminds me of the first one, but with everything about every sequel put into it. It's just great. Now, before I close this video up, we got to kind of do what me and my buddy Austin normally do, which is we have our official ranking, but let's mess with them a little bit. Which one do we think is better? This is always a fun game to play. Let's go to why, dude. I would honestly say that I would rather watch, the Final Destination is the king of shit. I'd rather watch Saw 5 over that one. Saw 4 is good as where it's at. Appreciate it. This looks correct. I would say this is right. I would rather watch Jigsaw over Saw the final chapter, and I would definitely watch the final chapter over 6. Now, where Terrific is, this is where things get a little tricky. Clearly, out of all these, probably the best one, dude, out of all these movies up here is gonna have to be Saw 2. So that's the best one under Terrific. But what comes next after Saw 2? I would honestly argue Final Destination 3. Some of you are probably scratching your head like, motherfucker, what about Bloodlines? That's great too. It is good. It's so good that I think it's better than Saw 3. And I love Saw 3, dude. I think Saw 3 is amazing. However, I think that Saw 3 is a better film than Spiral. Spiral is awesome. It's its own thing. I dig that. I think Saw 3 is better. Now let me take a look at this one more time. I feel like this might be right. I could be wrong. Some of you guys could probably be losing your fucking minds right now, but that's okay. I'm a weird guy. Now, Masterpiece. How do we feel about this? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Saw is better than the first Final Destination. I would rather watch Saw. I think it's more effective, dude. Both Saw and Final Destination are so impactful, like culturally, that they really define the genre. They revitalized the horror genre. But Saw is just 10 times better, in my opinion. Now, I know I just went on that whole, like, Saw 10 is amazing. Saw X is one of the best films. It is. I still like Final Destination 2 over it. So this looks correct to me. There you guys have it. This is my official tier list ranking of the Saw and Final Destination movies. I'm sure some of you are, like, losing your mind, or I'm sure some of you agree. Maybe some of you are like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Your shit is everywhere. Comment below. Let me know. I am Tony, and as always, folks, remember to stay rad.